Coming up now on 641, it's 77 degrees on your Monday morning. Joining us in studio this morning, Jenee Broussard, who is the Executive Director of Healing House, joining us to talk a little bit about, I apologize, I had to cough there, to talk a little bit about how we talk to our kids about tragedy, things that, they may not understand, or if they're a little bit older, they do have a comprehension of, but maybe they don't really know how to express what they're feeling. Jenee, thanks so much for joining us in studio. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
So there are a lot of different resources at healing-house.org about, what is available and what's out there. Kids who are seeing this, Thursday evening when I was out there, there was a man there who had been in a theater with his young son. The man and the son, he was about probably just, getting along to about 4 years old, talking about it with his dad very clearly, because it was obvious that the child had heard, what other people were saying. So, this is a place where people go where you don't expect anything like that to happen. So how do we talk to our kids to make them understand these are big adult issues?
Absolutely. And so some of the things that we want adults to keep in mind as we, really struggle with how do we talk to our kids about what happened last Thursday. One of the things that we want everyone to remember is to not project our own fears onto our children.
That's an excellent point.
They take their cues from the adults around them. They see the way that we are coping. They see the way that we are responding. They're seeing our reactions, and they are paying close attention. Even though we may go into another room to talk on the phone to a friend about it, or, we may shut off the TV when they walk into the room, they're very intuitive. And so the most important thing that we need to remember is they need to see that we care, that we feel terrible about this tragedy, and that we will do everything we can to keep them safe. We are, again, their role models. We are showing them how to cope, how to survive with what has happened. And so it's okay for us to show that emotion. We can show that feeling sad, feeling scared, feeling angry are completely normal.
Yeah,
those
and
are
I think
normal reactions.
They, because they're just little people and they get all those emotions in there and they're not really sure, what to do with it. And really, there's a certain age when you discuss things like that with children, I would assume.
Right.
If they're really little, it's not something you even bring up, I would assume.
Right. Under the age of 5, unless the child has had some direct impact by what has happened. If their loved one was either a victim or was killed in the shootings, yes, we definitely want to bring it up to them. However, for older children, kids that are 6 and older, when you open up that conversation to them, it's much better for them to learn the truth from a trusted adult.
Okay.
Than it is from, say when school comes back into session in 3 weeks and they're learning about it from other kids on the playground. We want and encourage you guys as parents, as adults, to create a safe space where you can talk about what has happened. Of course, in age-appropriate language based on the child, but let them know what has happened. Let them know what has happened. Ask them if they have any questions. Don't overwhelm them with details, but kind of gauge how much they already know before you start the conversation.
And considering now with how television and radio and all the news coverage that happens, social media, all of that aspect, it's important now more than ever to be able to be that, like you said, that trusted source to be able to talk to your kids about it.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we encourage, parents and adults to do is to really limit the children's exposure to media. What we found out as a result of 9/11 is that when children were watching TV, they would see the events playing over and over again, and many of the children thought that the plane crashes were happening again and again.
And again and again.
Because again, remember, children's understanding of the concept of time is much different than ours.
Wow.
So for children to see, images from the front of the theater each day on the news, again, some of these kids may think that this is happening again and again and again.
And I guess, you just don't think about that, because that's a little person's perspective, because like
Absolutely.
you said, they don't understand, what happens with the concept of time.
Absolutely. And as adults, we want to know. We want to know what's going on. I was glued to the TV Thursday night. We were out of town. I was glued to the TV Thursday night, just hanging on to every word that was shared, wondering, what had happened, what was going on, how could I help our community. And all the while, yes, my 5-year-old was there. So here I am guilty of some of the same things, that I'm encouraging other parents to do.
Well, we're human.
Exactly.
It is our human experience for this, for all of us.
Right, right.
For the teens, I don't know if teens necessarily run around sharing a lot of emotion, but I'm assuming that in their minds it is, just such a tragedy. But I don't know, how would you deal with a teenager when you're talking about these issues? Do you just listen?
You can, absolutely. Absolutely. I think one of the things that we have to include when we're speaking to teens about what happened on Thursday is use this as an opportunity to discuss mental illness and the fact that this man suffered from untreated mental illness. Just because someone is diagnosed with bipolar disorder and other disorders does not mean that they will do what this man did on Thursday. And so making that very clear that this man was untreated for his mental disorder. And kids are very resilient. Teenagers understand a lot more than we can ever imagine. I think the most important thing with teenagers is helping them to understand that we as adults and as a community will do everything we can to protect them and to shield them from something like this ever happening again. And to know that there are people in the community, there are people around them who are willing to listen, who are willing to answer their questions if they can. There are just some things that we don't know the answer to, and that's okay. It's okay not to know the answers to all of their questions, but to just be that kind ear, to be that person that'll listen to them and let them express their thoughts and their emotions. That's the most important thing. None of us are alone in coping with what happened last week.
And I think it can be extremely isolating for some people. I think certainly so. Absolutely. Because it's a topic of conversation that people can't get away from in one sense, but in another sense, they don't necessarily want to as well. But people don't always come out with their emotions right on their sleeve either. Right,
exactly. And just the senselessness and the randomness of what happened on Thursday, I think just makes us all feel even more vulnerable. It could have been anyone we knew. Maybe whether or not we knew the victims, we could have potentially known the victims. It could have been anyone. And so I think that really resonates with everyone, is that it's not that it hit too close to home. It's that it is home. Yeah. This is home. So I think just that fear and that anxiety about how do we go on? How do we start to live? How do we get back to, I guess, our new normal? As a result of Thursday is really important.
And it also hit at a place that, for me personally, I look at the movie theaters as a place to go relax and to just kind of get away from everything. And, we've talked about how sometimes you have shootings that happen at churches and where that's a place to get away from things and to reflect and go in prayer. Well, movie theater for me is a place where you just kind of get away from, just like any stress that's going on in life and just go relax. And then, trying to imagine people in there just trying to have a good time and enjoy life, whether it's being on that date or with that special someone, having just some time with your friends, or, whether you see different kinds of movies where it's family movies and stuff like that. It's just it's a place to get away, and that place was violated on Thursday.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I wonder what immediately, one of the things we were talking about Thursday, as were a lot of other people, how quickly our law enforcement officials, Lafayette Police, the Lafayette Sheriff's Office, the surrounding sheriff's associations, the surrounding city folks, the FBI, Homeland Security, how quickly Lafayette PD and the Sheriff's Office was at that theater, less than a minute, and how quickly the paramedics were on scene. Is that something that we can talk to our kids about?
Absolutely.
To say, look at here's a positive about this.
Absolutely. We want to point out, those acts of heroism.
Mm-hmm.
These people that responded so quickly and prevented the loss of more lives.
Mm-hmm.
As a direct result. We want to be able to point out to our kids that, yes, again, there are wonderful people in this community that will protect them at whatever cost they may be. And being able, again, to point out those positive things, those heroes that showed up in under a minute and, who just made an immense difference in what happened on Thursday night. It's great for kids to see that. Again,
so
going back,
understand that, there's so many more way positive people in this world and
exactly
wonderful people than people who are evil.
Exactly. What happened Thursday is very rare. And we want kids to understand that. This was a very rare occurrence. For us to, as children express their fear, for us to respond to them by saying, well, no, you shouldn't be scared. We should get back to living. Don't worry about that. Everything will be fine, is really invalidating their feelings. We need to let them learn to live again on their own and let them learn the natural way of the world that, yes, we can go out and do things. We can go out and experience life as it was normal and realize that there's not a bad person at every turn.
Right.
They need to sort of restore that security and that safety in the world on their own, more than us just saying, well, you shouldn't be scared. Don't worry about it.
They need the experience.
Exactly. Because we're adults, so what do we know?
Right.
As
much as they may look up to us, they're also like, man, they don't know anything.
Yes.
Jenee, so healing-house.org, there's just a lot of information that is available there, correct?
Absolutely. Different ways to open up the conversation with your children about what happened on Thursday, as well as sort of some signs and symptoms of trauma that you may see in some of your children or in the other adults around you. But we just want to make sure that everyone takes care of each other, embrace each other, and just really, really hold each other tight.
And honor one another.
Absolutely.
Jenee Broussard has been our guest, Executive Director at Healing House. I want to thank you for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Coming up now on 6:53, we've got Rush on the way in 2 minutes.